Now then, it's the IGN UK podcast number 223. I'm Daniel Krupa and I'm joined by Alex. And fresh from his travels, yet again, Chris.
Hello, pod people.
The pod people. It's not caught on yet.
No.
He's plugging away at it.
I haven't said it for a year, so I'm bringing it back.
Bringing it back.
Old school.
We've not been up to much in the last week or so, have we, Alex?
Well, we've met a man.
Well, you're heroes.
Yeah.
You were a little bit nervous.
I was, but he turns out he's actually a really nice man.
And who is he?
Hideo Kojima.
You did talk about it a bit last week.
Very fleetingly, yes. But the content's kind of going to be going up this week and next, so we can talk a bit more detail about it. And the game's out as well.
So Ground Zero, all the embargoes are up. We've played the game, but more importantly, we've done 5 videos with Hideo Kojima, so I'm not going to do that.
You didn't do that on the day.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't walk in and bow or anything like that.
It was actually really awkward watching loads of people going, should do the bow, don't really know how to do it, should have practiced, don't want to headbutt him. Oh, there you go.
So I just fist bumped him.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I was very respectful because he is one of my gaming heroes because he's made some of the best games in the world. But he talks us through the opening of Ground Zeroes, a bit like a kind of director's commentary. And he probably could have spent 3 or 4 hours going through it.
Like we had 2 hours with him, and the last thing we did, we wanted him to look through the opening scene because he's famed for doing these really long cinema-influenced cutscenes in his games, and he's a massive fan of Hollywood cinema. And we were like playing the trailer, and we said, anytime you want to talk about a scene or a shot or a particular choice you've made, tell us to pause, and we'll hit pause on the keyboard, and you can talk as much as you want, because it was a bit difficult. We had a translator, and he just kept pausing. Like the first minute took us about 10 minutes to do, and we were like, I said to him midway, I was like, don't feel like you have to comment on everything, you know, you can skip bits as you want. And he was just like, I could do this all day.
Yeah.
He loved like breaking it down.
Yeah.
And we've got a video next week where he talks about his film influences, and no surprise, Kubrick is his favourite director.
Yeah.
So it's all about detail.
A lot of detail.
It was crazy. Like in that opening minute, there were so many different things that changed during development, and it's so rare that you get that kind of level of insight into how kind of games are made.
And he's someone who definitely thinks about where the camera should be in digital space, that he wants to frame it in this way to achieve a certain effect. So very much a filmmaker's eye. Yeah.
So that's kind of what we've been up to. What about you, Tilly? Because you haven't been around for a while.
Buggered off, didn't I?
You did. Again.
I went to Austin, as I do every March for South by Southwest.
But this time you went to get your face punched in, your wallet stolen.
Yeah, it was a bit of a rough old week. Well, I didn't get my wallet stolen. I got my bag stolen.
Oh, your bag.
I didn't know this.
All my notes. Yeah, I got my bag stolen. I got pretty much threatened by a taxi driver, threatened by people trying to get in a taxi. Then he got dumped in the middle of nowhere. I had a rough week.
Right.
Personally. Met loads of horrible people as well.
Sounds good.
I saw some films, though.
Right.
I did. I saw Bad Neighbours, the new Seth Rogen, Zac Efron film.
Neighbours in America, is it?
Neighbours in America.
Imagine if they called it that over here. I'd go in there expecting Harold Bishop.
Would you?
That's what people in America want.
Seth Rogen is Harold Bishop. That'd be amazing. Who's Bouncer? I don't know.
Zac Efron.
Bad Neighbours is very funny, though. It's one I went on the set of, and we're hopefully going to do some fun stuff with Seth down the line.
Yeah.
But it's very funny.
What kind of character does he play? Does he smoke weed in the film?
Yeah.
Amazing.
He plays a slob. He plays a slob who goes to war with the preppy sorority dude who moves in next door, Zac Efron, with the six-pack. It's really funny. Just consistently, like, rude, laugh out loud, edgy. Yeah, really good. That was good. What else did I see?
Frank.
I saw Frank.
That's a weird film.
It's a weird film.
Do you know about Frank, Alex?
Well, I was reading something about it. So
well, maybe my review
on IGN.com.
Actually,
no worries. No worries. 8-star.
But it's Frank Sidebottom, right?
Kind of.
Right.
Because the John Ronson, I didn't know, was in Frank Sidebottom's band for a year.
No, I read this in your review, and I thought that really surprised me.
Yeah, and so he's written a story about a guy who becomes keyboardist in a band fronted by a guy called Frank, but it's not Frank Sidebottom.
Right.
It's not Frank Sidebottom. It's an American guy, actually.
And John Ronson being the journalist who wrote Men Who Stare at Goats and The Psychopath Test.
Exactly. And Michael Fassbender's the guy underneath the Frank mask.
So it's not the Frank Sidebottom story, though?
No, it's definitely not. It's got nothing to do with that.
It's just a kind of a weird illusion.
By his experiences with that band.
But so what's the mask of then? If it's not Frank Sidebottom?
No, it's the Frank Sidebottom mask. Pretty much. I know. Just get Frank Sidebottom out of your mind, which obviously not that many people would have heard of Frank
Well, he was in
Sidebottom.
Filth recently. There's a whole Frank Sidebottom section of Filth that I imagine anyone from North America, a lot of Filth might go not down that well, but the Frank Sidebottom section might.
It's quite rude.
It's really rude.
But Frank's really good.
But you say get it out of your head, but then there's Michael Fassbender with a massive Frank Sidebottom mask.
I want him to wear it in Days of Future Past. As my needs.
And why Michael Fassbender? Why is he doing that role? Does he ever take it off?
I'm not going to say.
Okay.
I feel like it's a spoiler.
Okay. All right. Fine.
He does that.
What else did I see? I saw The Raid 2.
Which I've heard great things about.
Long.
Too long.
How long is it?
2.5 hours.
What?
Yeah.
That film needs to be 90 minutes.
Too many characters, too many plot strands, too long, but it's still brilliant.
Right.
It's still got the most amazing fight scenes you'll ever see. Some of them top the ones from the last film. It just lacks that kind of awesome, self-contained,
I think you started seeing the kind of Raid bleed out effect now, because the other day I saw Captain America 2, which I don't think I can talk about in great detail, but I can give my reaction to not betraying any embargoes now. Like
reviews up.
Yeah, and the Raid is definitely an influence on the fight sequences in Captain America, like the hand-to-hand combat, how kind of brutal and powerful it is. I think Raid's going to influence a lot more Hollywood films. Like the Bourne films did a few years ago.
Yeah.
I think the Raid's going to do that from now on.
Yeah, I mean, it's much more like Infernal Affairs, this one, if you ever saw that, which The Departed was based on.
Yep.
It's basically a very similar plot where Ramon's out of the building and he almost literally has to go straight undercover. And then it's like the next 2 years of his life undercover.
Oh.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So a good time travel movie called Predestination with Ethan Hawke. I'll just dash over these. I saw The Mule, an Australian film about a guy who keeps drugs up his bum for 2 weeks. And I saw the From Dusk Till Dawn TV pilot.
Was it any good? You reviewed it?
It was good, but it was exactly the same as the movie.
Oh.
But they'd stretched the first 10 minutes of the movie into 45 minutes.
Right.
And then the next 10 minutes are going to be 45 minutes.
And that's
from the movie?
Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So, so they haven't even met what would be the family that they end up
So
taking.
this is a Netflix original?
Yes,
But it's not going to be all the episodes at once. It's going to be like one a week, is it?
I think so. Yeah, it's because it's being broadcast on a channel called El Rey, which is Robert Rodriguez's new channel in America.
Right.
And so we're getting it each week that they get it.
Right.
Gotcha. Because I was going to say that goes against everything that Netflix does.
Yeah.
The whole point of Netflix,
Yeah.
it's
In
not
Dublin
appointment
one.
to view.
So it's
It's
not a
not.
Netflix original.
No.
It's like what they did with Breaking Bad then.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Got you.
Okay.
But it looked. I mean, it was really well made, and Don Johnson was in it, and he was really good. But
Which is not something you expect to hear.
but it was
but-
that kind of Tarantino thing. Though. It's
Well,
like
John
Travolta-
Johnson appears in Django.
Yeah, he's quite a good actor, and he's really good in this. But yeah, it just seemed a bit of a pointless exercise,
Is he in
really.
Django? Yeah, he's like very fleetingly. He's like one of the kind of southern plantation owners.
Yeah, Daddy
Right.
something or other. Isn't he called? Big Daddy or something.
Sugar. Is it? Yeah.
Sugar Daddy.
Yeah.
We don't know.
And finally, I also spoke to Gareth Edwards about the new Godzilla,
Godzilla.
which we posted on the site yesterday. A bit spoilery.
Can we talk about this? Is it a spoiler? It's not
I don't
really.
know.
It's kind of in the trailer a little bit. The international trailer. There's a teaser.
And also,
for
we've
it.
got a news piece on it.
Yeah,
So of course we
Should
can
just
talk about
it
it.
now.
Yeah.
It's not a spoiler.
yeah.
There's other monsters in Godzilla.
There's other monsters in
Or
Godzilla.
one at least.
There's at least one other monster.
Is it turning into Pacific Rim?
No,
Okay.
God no.
Because in the trailer, something's flying. There's a big flying monster in the trailer.
Well, that's not the monster I've seen. I don't think.
Oh, really?
There's more than one monster.
I want Mothra.
Wow.
Well, in our set visit piece that went up today, or is up this week, there's a lot more detail as to what other stuff you can see in the movie if you want to know everything in advance. But everything I've seen so far, and everything we were talking about this yesterday, everything that Gareth Edwards
He's
is
just saying all the right things for me.
It
Like,
just sounds like it's a movie you want to see.
did you read that interview? The film he
I'm ready,
name
yeah,
checked
no.
was Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Right.
He says that's the influence. What you were saying, like
Yeah.
a family at the heart of something that's much bigger than themselves.
Yeah, paranoia.
Yeah. He just sounds like he knows what to say, and it sounds like he's been given a lot of control.
Yeah, he was saying no one's been telling him no.
Unparalleled
He's just
control.
done what he wanted.
Really?
That
looks
company,
beautiful as well.
Legendary, seemed to be good for that.
Yeah.
And they're doing World of Warcraft with Duncan.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that do the Nolan movies and Batman. Like they know what they're
it
doing.
looks incredibly stylish as well. All the stuff with like the pilot skydiving and the
Yeah, it does look
flares.
cool.
There's something very kind of poetic about it. Like the imagery. It's not just crunching monsters. There's something quite beautiful about it in a weird way.
Yeah. Let's hope it lives up to expectation.
Okay. So we get on to the news.
Let's do the news.
News. Loads of massive film news this week, but we're going to start off with the news that Star Wars 7 is set 30 years after the Return of the Jedi.
Now, was this new news? Or was this something that we've spoken about for about a year?
All news is regurgitated on the internet. I think it's something everyone thought. I think it's the first time someone from Lucasfilm has come out and really said that it will also focus on a trio of new stars alongside some familiar faces.
Okay.
And they went on record as saying principal photography will start filming in May.
May?
Yep.
Not May the 4th?
That would be probably a press release will be sent out on May the 4th, I imagine.
Yeah.
So it's almost like in real time, because it was the 30th anniversary of Return of the Jedi last year when I went to the Star Wars convention.
83,
I think it was the
83, yeah.
So it's kind of in real time then, which makes sense because we expect some of the actors to be returning.
Yeah.
So they'll be playing themselves 30 years hence. Yeah. What do we think of that news?
It's just... You know my whole feeling on Star Wars 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, however many they're going to be. The brand for me has been diluted so much over the past 30 years that it just doesn't have the same kind of resonance that it once had.
Yeah.
And so I want to start seeing something that will make me excited. And you know what? It might not be for me. It might be for a new audience, which is obviously the prequels for kids, which is fine.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if Disney are thinking hiring Abrams in particular, because what he did last time, even though he can't please everyone, what he did with Star Trek was kind of cater for two very different audiences simultaneously. And the trick with Star Wars today, as Star Wars stands today, is catering for both the kind of old school fans and the kids.
Yeah.
And if you can pull off a film that will satisfy those two demographics, then you're onto a winner.
That is not going to be easy. That is.
I bet that first time you see Luke on screen again, in the trailer.
Jesus, you look old, man.
You look
faces hanging off
like Binary Sunset. He goes, just give me a minute.
Princess Leia kind of like staggering in with a gold bikini.
You just you've aged 30 years.
Every time I look in the mirror, I go.
But it's normal. It's healthy.
Okay. Yeah. I really hope Han Solo's not wearing an earring though. Imagine that, just flying the Millennium Falcon, pulling up at lights, winding down the window, just winking at the girls next door. Anyway,
but yeah, I mean, I'm down with it. I'm really excited to see the three characters return, even though we're hearing that they might not be in the film too much. But
yeah, we're thinking Leonard Nimoy Star Trek.
Well, he was in it a lot though.
The first one, not too much. Yeah, it's a decent cameo. It's not overbearing.
Well, your opinion differs.
And I think we're agreed on the fact that we're excited that it's not George Lucas.
Yes.
It's someone with a great filmmaker with a vision who's taken over.
Who really knows his Star Wars as well. And the original Star Wars, everyone around the production, when I was at that convention last year, Kathleen Kennedy, the producer, they're really just citing the original trilogy. You won't really hear them mention the prequels all that much. The way it looks, the design, the way they're going to shoot it.
Well, I guess
all going back to the originals.
It's continuing on from Return of the Jedi, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, the further we can leave behind the prequels, the better, really.
Yeah, it's weird they're going to have to do that retro technology thing where we're so far... Star Trek has managed to do that quite well, but... effects have moved on 30 years, and it's going to be...
Cause, it's weird that Prometheus just didn't even bother with even acknowledging it. It's I just make everything well futuristic.
Well, I hope that it's not all CG. I hope there's some kind of real life
I think
stuff
Star
in
Wars
there
can get away with it more than Star Trek because it's kind of soft sci-fi. It's fantasy sci-fi, where it's less focused on the technology. It never really was. There's more kind of mythical stuff in there.
But I just think, and again, Jurassic Park's a really good example. When you're actually interacting with physical things, you just get better results.
Yeah.
And Superman, which was the opposite, where everything was CG,
even his cape.
It just felt like...
But you mentioned...
It doesn't feel believable.
Yeah, did you mention Jurassic Park?
I did mention Jurassic Park, yes.
That's interesting. Actually, now you say it.
Slick.
I got an interesting email a couple of weeks ago from Colin Trevorrow, who directed the movie Safety Not Guaranteed, and I got to know him around that time, and we've stayed in touch. And he emailed me saying, I'm off to shoot Jurassic World in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to do one interview before I go to Hawaii. Do you want the interview? Obviously, yes.
You were like, well,
Imagine
let me
if
think
you
about
said,
it.
it's all right, actually.
Jog on.
I haven't got enough time to come up with some questions.
Well, he kind of said, though, I want to address certain things that are out there.
Yeah.
So you can ask me 2 or 3 questions, but I also want to talk about a couple of other things. And that was kind of, we went back and forth a little bit, and eventually this week we've been able to publish what he said. But the most exciting bit of news was about the casting, and I think he was just getting a bit annoyed or frustrated at all the speculation that was circulating about who would return from the original movies, because, you know, there's a rabid fan base out there that want to see Jeff Goldblum or Sam Neill. Maybe someone wants to see Laura Dern. I don't know who that is.
Yep.
Not so bothered.
No.
But yeah, and it turns out none of them are returning.
Yeah. And I am probably one of those rabid fans, and I think I wrote a piece originally when Jurassic World was announced a year and a half ago or whenever about things that were like. I think I put Sam Neill in there.
Yeah.
But what you've got to realise, and the skill of being a good filmmaker and making a good installment, is not giving fans what they want, because fans don't know what they want.
Yeah.
They don't know how to make a good film.
Yeah.
And you know what I've seen of Chris Pratt in other things, and just from the trailer, I think he could be a great leading man. It's time to move on. It's time to...
Well, as he said in the interview, that the Jurassic Park films aren't about 3 people who keep getting into bad luck. And it would be so painful trying to write a reason for them to return yet again.
Well, that's what like the sequels are kind of about. It's like, oh, Jeff Goldblum again, Sam Neill again. But the essence of the original one is a disaster movie. Yeah. And that's what it seems like this one is. Like, everything's... If it is a big theme park that's up and running, and they're going to try and basically redo the first film, like, in essence, but on a much bigger scale, that sounds brilliant.
Yeah. But who is returning, Dan?
Doctor Wu.
Doctor Wu.
Wu is back.
Doctor Wu.
Back again.
Hey.
Wu is back.
Woo. Woohoo.
So Wu is... woohoo! Wu is the guy who... is a pioneer behind the technology that brings the dinosaurs back, and he's there in the scene when they first go to the visitor centre. And he's the guy who's got a clipboard, and he's talking. When the Velociraptor egg is hatching, and Sam Neill goes, what species is this? And he looks very nonchalantly. He's got Velociraptors. Yeah. That's his best moment in the film.
And he's played by an actor called BD Wong, who is going to be playing the part again in this movie. Who I went to his IMDb. He doesn't seem to have aged in 20 years.
Well, that's good, because is this movie set before or after or around the same time?
I think it's like Star Wars. This is present day. This is 20 years on from Jurassic Park.
Which kind of, again, makes sense in story-wise, like, you know, takes that long to put a disaster of that magnitude behind you to, like, move on.
And rebuild.
Yeah.
So we were all in agreement. That's pretty cool news, I think.
I bet he couldn't believe his luck when he got the phone call for that.
I bet he was never expecting that.
No, he's like, oh I was just doing a bit of TV stuff. What? You're my man.
I think it's cool, though, to have a character that makes sense. He talks about the fact that he's been in Hammond's shadow for the last 20 years and hasn't got the credit he feels like he deserves. So you can see how that would work into a plot where...
He might have been twisted over the last 20 years or... Yeah, definitely. One of the questions I asked you, we're not ready to comment on this yet, but is John Williams' music?
There was no comment on that front. I did ask that question. Right, okay. No comment on that front. There's some more stuff if you look at the feature about the
Bits
new aspect ratio.
Yeah, really interesting ways they're filming it. It's going to have a distinctive look, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's all in there. But equally, and I think if you are unhappy that those guys aren't returning, this isn't going to be the last Jurassic Park movie. I see no reason why Jeff Goldblum couldn't be in a future one.
Or like we were saying about Star Wars or Star Trek as a cameo, perhaps. Also, I really like the fact that Chris Pratt's character is a scientist.
Yeah.
And he has a different field of expertise. So obviously, scientists and kind of academics have always been at the core. Like the main characters of Jurassic Park. I like that that's being continued in spirit.
I think he's going to be a scientist in the same way that Indiana Jones is an archaeologist.
Yeah, badass scientist.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool. Yeah.
Sam Neill's pretty badass.
Other news: Watch Dogs. It's going to take you 40 hours to complete if you're average at games. Are you average at games, Daniel?
I like to think I'm better than average. I think we proved that when we got to press events.
It'll take you 35 hours to complete. Chris, how good at games are you?
I would say I'm below average these days.
It'll take you 80 hours to complete.
Okay.
How long will it take you to complete, Alex?
Probably about 5.
160.
So the creative director of Watch Dogs, which obviously was coming out last year, is now coming out this year, later in a couple of months. So on average, it will take 35 hours to complete, to 40 hours, according to the creative director. But if you want to see everything, 100 hours. That's a lot of bang for your buck.
Yeah.
But just being
reservation
pessimistic voice here, with a lot of these open world games, Is that collecting every single little thing that's flying through the
I
air?
would assume,
climbing every big building. That is like every single challenge. And
knowing it's Ubisoft, and a lot of Ubisoft games feel like they begin to kind of blend into one. It's going to be the Assassin's Creed effect. So going up, opening every, well, it's not going to be a chest, but probably hacking every security camera, doing every little side quest, which, you know, some people dig.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you look at Ground Zeroes, obviously out this week, that whole game is based on side quests. Like, you can zip through that in, well, some people have done it in 10 minutes, but actually there's 8 to 10 hours of game in there if you want to explore everything. So I just think it's a nice thing to do. It's like, if you want to, although, you know, I'm somebody that likes to finish a game in under 15 hours.
Yeah.
35 hours is like,
I would suspect you could do the campaign around about that time still.
I hope so.
Okay.
But I just think it's interesting. I think, you know, I hope that game delivers, because, God, we first heard about that, 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
I feel like it's been forever we've been talking about Watch Dogs.
And I just kind of want to see the finished product now and hope that it lives up to what it's
quite futuristic technology in the game.
Or it was, but now.
I was going to say, that's what I mean, isn't it?
Not anymore. It looks really great. If you go back now, he's just got this massive Etch-a-Sketch and he's trying to hack into stuff.
Terry Gilliam was talking about
your phone.
Terry Gilliam was talking about that last week on the podcast, where he said that when they first doing Zero Theorem, they were talking about futuristic stuff, and it was already outdated by the time the film's coming out.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Talking about Ubisoft games, Assassin's Creed is leaked again for another year. This always happens every single year. I'm sure Ubisoft are never the ones to make the announcement.
No.
It always comes out from like some retailer or...
So what was the cause, or the source of the leak this time?
Well, Kotaku. Kotaku got a screenshot of the new Assassin's Creed game, which makes it look like it's in 18th century Paris.
So Jade Raymond's favourite
historical period apparently is revolutionary France, which has long been rumoured to be a setting.
About that, haven't we?
It's like...
We were going to talk to his school teachers, weren't we? Wasn't that an idea?
The idea was to talk to Jade Raymond's
school teacher. Find out what did she really
like? We never did do.
She loved guillotines. She loved Robespierre. Because Assassin's Creed weaves in and out of real life history, and obviously it's one of the biggest historical events of the last 500 years, really. Yep. And it's really shaped Europe and Western culture. So it's no surprise that the Assassin's Creed mythos will visit that period. But it seems like this year might be the year that happens. But what's kind of more interesting than the reveal that it's revolutionary France is that apparently there's 2 Assassin's Creed games in development. One codenamed Unity, the other codenamed Comet. The former will release on Xbox One and PS4, and the latter will release on 360 and PS3. So we're going to get a generation divide.
See, I wonder if that would be a bit like, obviously, Liberation and Assassin's Creed 3.
Yeah.
Was it 3? It was 3, wasn't it?
Yeah, like companion games.
Yeah.
Or they could just be the same game and they've just got different code names because they've got different hardware demands
or teams working
on specs on it. Yeah, like
maybe
they did with Titanfall.
Yeah.
But are you interested in another Assassin's Creed if it's now in France?
Well, I was going to say, I would be interested in another Assassin's Creed. I'm not particularly that into
4. You didn't. Like, Black Flag was the one that won everyone back.
I didn't even say that. Let me finish. I was going to say,
words into your mouth.
I was going to say, not that into revolutionary France. Really, it doesn't kind of set the. Like, I looked at the screenshot. I was like,
Yeah, it's not the most exciting screenshot. It's just him outside of a building.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but people might get beheaded. There might be barricades. He might start singing. It might be like Les Mis.
If Russell Crowe's singing it, I'm up. I'm down for it.
Maybe you will.
Oh, actually, when it comes out, can we reenact Les Mis using Assassin's Creed 5?
I've never seen it.
Never seen Les Mis?
I've not seen the movie, and I've not seen the stage show.
I'd go see the stage show of the film. Anyway, there you go.
But so obviously there has been a lot of chat about whether naval battles will return, but it's like, surely that's been done to death now. That's been in 2 Assassin's Creed games. What's the next naval battle? I don't know. What was the big kind of transport mechanism for revolutionary France? I don't know. Stagecoaches?
Wagons? Stagecoach. Yeah. Also, it's usually in an Assassin's Creed game you have like multiple cities.
Yeah.
Now, Paris was really the main site of the French Revolution. I can't imagine you going to more rural French cities.
No.
It'd be good if they had a narrative that kind of hopped more around Europe.
I wonder if you can go to Disneyland, Paris.
Or incite revolution.
Yeah.
That was the head Goofy.
What about the Moulin Rouge? Hello.
When was the Eiffel Tower built?
Don't know.
I wonder if you can climb that.
It would have been 19th century.
But that would be a hell of a
It won't
climb.
be built by then.
No, I don't think so.
Maybe it's built as you play through the game. I don't know. I don't know my history. We're going to check.
We should have researched French history before we sat down to discuss it.
Late 19th century.
We should have got Jade Raymond on
1887.
to talk about her favourite period in history. So the Eiffel Tower won't be built by then.
No, not by a long shot.
That's the
100
reason
years.
for setting it in Paris, to climb that bad boy.
I'd take hours.
Anyway, I know, but wouldn't that be cool? I'd do that.
If that
And
was
then
just
jump
the
off
game.
into a hay bale at the bottom of the Eiffel Tower.
And he died.
Yeah.
Because your ancestor was an idiot.
Yeah.
There you go.
Is that it for the
Assassin's Creed 5.
news?
That is it for the news. Now, this week's talking point, obviously, it's GDC was happening this week, and Sony made an announcement that we'd been expecting for a while, that they are stepping into the world of virtual reality. Their product is called Project... Sorry, Chris. Their product is called Project Morpheus, which is a consumer-based VR headset that looks, I don't know, it looks kind of swanky. What do you think?
It looks very, very swish and in keeping with all the other kind of PlayStation 4 stuff. It's got the kind of blue LED glow from it. It does look cool.
It looks a lot more kind of,
It looks
I guess,
nicer than-
sci-fi than the Oculus Rift.
The Oculus Rift looks kind of utilitarian, like somebody has just, built it. The Morpheus looks like it's had a design team behind it.
Yeah. So I guess some of the things about the Morpheus is that, the screens, eyeball screens, whatever you want to call them, are
We're stepping
HD.
into new territory here, Alex.
Exactly. Are HD, so it looks kind of super crisp. So it's obviously going to make the most of like PS4 graphics, etc.
Apparently they're called panels.
Oh, is that
Panel
right?
resolution.
Okay. But it's also going to work in conjunction with the PlayStation camera and the PlayStation Move. So it will detect kind of leaning, and there will be a lot more to it than the Oculus Rift.
Because Oculus Rift currently doesn't support that, but at CES in January they announced that there's a new iteration of Oculus Rift called Crystal Cove, which dev kit's going out shortly, which will integrate that kind of leaning motion and like tilt functionality.
Yeah. So obviously our guys in the US have been playing around with it. So Scott Lowe, he was talking that the kit itself is really, really well built, like really good quality, which is what you would expect from Sony. I've only played Oculus a tiny little bit, and it is a prototype, but it feels like it's something that's been strapped together with headphones that pulled together, and who knows what the final product is going to be like. But apparently the Sony thing feels like a proper consumer piece of technology. But the other thing that he said was really, really interesting so far is the tech stuff, the demos, the software that's been shown. So he played a demo called Deep. You play the role of a diver, and you go down into the water inside a shark-proof cage, and apparently it's just like completely immersive. Like you're there, the sounds incredible. You've got sharks swimming past you.
That sounds terrifying.
This is a genuine quote from Scott. He says, "The shark may well be the most lifelike I've ever seen in a game." That's a hell of a quote. Right?
Have we done our top 25 sharks in games?
We
Because
haven't.
as a tentpole, I might take.
Surely the
lead on
point of this though would be to not put you in a cage. Why would you need to be in a cage if it's virtual?
protection. Do you want to swim with them?
I don't know.
Protection from what?
You're asking the big question.
No. But he was saying that even though, so it's in the middle of GDC, so it's a busy show floor, and obviously there's a lot of sound bleed with everything going on. He still said it was like completely immersive and just felt amazing.
So on that point, I'm sure it's super immersive. I read a comparison of that and the Oculus.
Yeah.
Now, currently, the Morpheus has a more narrow viewing angle.
Right.
There's apparently a little bit more light bleed as well. But it's much lighter than the Oculus because the processing is done in a box that sits between the headset and your console. Yeah. So what you're putting on your head is basically just the display. There's no kind of processing going on in there. Right. So again, more user-friendly, I think.
Yeah. So, but actually, earlier this week, we got round to playing with an Oculus for it's a England rugby.
Yeah, it's a project called Where the Rose, which is an initiative by O2 to give people an experience of what it's like to train with the England rugby team, with a view to eventually one day maybe turning it into kind of a sports-based simulator. But we had it in the office, didn't we? And it's the first time you guys had played with an Oculus Rift headset. Yeah, so it's not a game, but we should say it was like just a video. But it was kind of an immersive video because you can turn around stuff.
Yeah, I nearly played one last week in Texas. Right, a Game of Thrones Oculus Rift simulator.
Is this a recreation of The Wall or something? Yeah,
but the queue was too big.
Right,
the queue's everywhere. So yeah, this was the first time.
Yeah.
So what did you make of it, Alex?
Well, firstly, I thought it was a really clever kind of piece of kit because this video is you're training with the England rugby team. And apparently, to get the effect, they had, quote, I believe, a small person, so it felt like you're kind of in with the action with a
he has to get the right angle
thing on his head.
It was like it's a custom gimbal, with
8 GoPros, I think that's what he said.
Yeah, it was like loads of gimbals mounted on a custom built gimbal rig.
What's a gimbal?
A gimbal, is that something when you move it stabilizes itself?
Is it? Okay, right.
And it was created in conjunction with a guy called David Crone of Unit 9, who is a qualified remote pilot on drone technology. So they had all this footage from GoPros that they then had to like digitally stitch together to create this kind of seamless 3D image, which really does seem seamless.
So that's the thing that I thought was really, really clever is that, so you're there in the middle of a scrum and the ball comes to you and it's just like looking around and tracking where the ball's going. And obviously in the video, they kind of not force you, but encourage you to look at whoever's talking. But I kind of forgot about that and just
you start looking around, don't you?
And I thought that was, really, really clever. The one thing I will say, so this was based on, original Oculus tech. So it was standard def screens or panels. And when I first got in there, I just thought, ooh, this doesn't look very good. But then you kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
I really want to see what HD panels look like inside that because I thought the tech was great. I didn't really feel motion sickness, which obviously a lot of people complain about.
I think the motion sickness comes more when you've got a controller and you're controlling it yourself. Because when you've got the analogs, it's easier to disorientate yourself than when you're just looking around with your head. It's when you can like quickly turn around, then you start feeling a bit queasy sometimes.
Right.
I did a little bit. I mean, I don't think we should have tested it out standing in the room we were in front of a glass table. Because when I first put it on, I felt really disoriented and I nearly fell forward.
A bit top heavy.
I just would have smashed into the table. So maybe have a bit of space.
So what did you think when the guys like throw a pass to you? You kind of do want to put your hands out, don't you, a little bit?
Yeah, to be honest.
And then you don't want to look like an idiot.
If the bloke hadn't come in and was standing in front of me and was testing it, I would have been doing all that. But as there was someone standing in front of me,
embarrassing,
I didn't do it. But I wanted to catch it and throw it.
There was definitely a feeling of wanting to dodge when they're charging towards you to tackle you. You kind of wanted to duck out the way. So, I think it's interesting technology. The bigger question is this actually going to make it into the mainstream? Will you sit at home with one of those on your head and actually play it?
I don't know.
Is this going to be the next 3D where so much is invested in it, but actually the uptake by consumers is...
I think there's some good quotes here. Yoshida, the head of PlayStation, said this may well shape the future of games. So he's kind of hedging himself there. Where meanwhile, there's this other guy called Anton Mikhailov who said we're treating VR as a medium, not a peripheral. So he seems like he's fully behind it. But those two kind of demos that were available at GDC, one is the Deep, there's another one called the Castle, where you can hold two move controllers and you can kind of do a bit of sword play.
Right.
They sound like, I know they haven't had time to build a full game, but they sound like rides and attractions. Yeah. And that's my thing so far about Oculus. The way that it's demoed, because there's a lot of buzz about it and there's not many of them. The way it's demoed, it's like you queue for a ride.
It's an experience.
You put it on, you like Valkyrie, you get blasted out with the thing, you shoot some stuff, and then you take it off, you're like, whoa, like you just got off a roller coaster. And that's brilliant. And you get a buzz from that. But then do you want to have a 3-hour gaming session with that on? And that's a slightly bigger proposition.
Yeah. I wonder if it's just a novelty. I've spoken to a few filmmakers who are having meetings about Oculus Rift, about potentially trying to create some kind of movies for it.
I think
which is obviously an idea that they'll be thinking about. But for me, I don't know, all of having to turn around and look behind yourself and stuff. Yeah. It's just going to start getting on my nerves after a while. I mean, I don't know, because we've not done it for long.
Yeah.
But you feel like you just want to see stuff in front of you and not have to keep...
Yeah, I can kind of imagine wearing it at home and not moving around and using the kind of VR stuff too much, but just having use it to have a massive screen.
Yeah.
Like you're in the cinema at home without having to get a huge...
Because it is, I know the whole point is, but it's completely absorbing. Like, there was a little bit of sound bleed that we had, so I could hear people talking. But overall, it's like wherever you look, apart from, again, I think there was a small black area around your body where the cameras didn't pick up. It was like, wow, this is properly incredible. And I can imagine in, I don't know, let's say Game of Thrones, you've got a massive fight. Imagine being in the middle of that and looking all around you to see what was going on. But that is absolutely, it's a roller coaster ride. It's not
At the moment,
a way of
It's
experiencing.
It's something I'd like to do, like they did with Superman Returns, which was where there were 3 scenes in the movie in 3D.
Yeah.
I was quite happy doing that, putting my glasses on, taking them off. I would love if all 3D movies were like that for specific scenes. It's a fun way to experience the film, but as for it...
It's really difficult to imagine how it's going to be introduced, because it's not like... 3D is a little bit different. It's kind of... It's technology that goes on top of what there already exists. With this, it would change. It would have to be such a kind of monumental shift in how you actually make things and how you like create them and conceive them, that it's much harder for us to conceive of how we'll use it.
It is way more suited to gaming in that, you know, obviously gamings exist in 3D worlds, so you can drop that camera in anywhere. In movies, you're seeing the director's vision that he wants or she wants you to see. So I just don't know if it's going to work for like mainstream movies.
I feel like we're not convinced, but if you're a developer, this must be really exciting to have this put in front of you and say this is a whole new way of approaching game making.
It's your opportunity to be a pioneer and like do something that nobody's ever done before, which is great. But also there's kind of other implications for it. Like, I think we have a feature actually being written at the moment about how, imagine horror games. Imagine how much more scary and intense
like
that will be.
Constantly looking over your shoulder.
To a point that actually you might not want that experience.
Yeah.
There's a point where that level of immersion is actually counterproductive. Like, you actually don't want to play that, have that experience, because it's too actually real and too traumatic.
But I also think if you look at, I don't know, I went to Disneyland last year and I went on Star Tours. Now that is an old ride and it feels clunky. But imagine, you know, with Star Wars 7 coming out, that is a VR-based ride, and you're in the back of the X-Wing behind whatever, and you're looking around. That would be amazing. I'd love that.
Again, rides sort of stuff,
That's the future.
But that's maybe how it'll start. Like on PSN, you can download the Star Wars experience, you can download the Jurassic Park experience, and that's maybe how it starts to be used by PR companies. They develop these experiences that you can try out for 10 minutes, rather than full-blown games, because, you know, you just channel resources in that way. That's maybe how it starts anyway.
I guess the other kind of key thing is like, how much is the Project Morpheus headset going to cost? They haven't said that.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of key thing.
Well, apparently they're thinking, because currently it uses LCDs, but the new Oculus uses OLED.
Right.
And apparently that gives a much better experience, but obviously that's more expensive.
Way more expensive, yeah.
So, yeah. There you go.
So, but yeah, I think it's interesting tech. I'm sure they'll show more at E3, so we'll hopefully get our first glimpse and figure out whether it is the future or a fad. So, moving on, we have got listener feedback. Daniel, I think you've got the first piece.
Right, first bit of feedback is from Chris Larson, who says, do you think that developers leak information about their games themselves as part of a marketing strategy, or do you think because it drives hype about the game, because we weren't supposed to know the information, so it seems a little bit more illicit and a bit more exciting to read about?
Underground.
So I guess this links back to the Assassin's Creed announcement, and we say that happens every single year. Is that part of Ubisoft's marketing strategy? Now, recently, Tom Butler, who we thought had died...
Is he not?
No, he's not died. He did an interview with Gary Oldman for the release of RoboCop, and Gary Oldman in that interview admitted that the leaked images of RoboCop on set was by the studio.
Really?
He just said, yeah, the studio leaked those. Because Gary Oldman does not care what he says. So I guess there's precedent for this happening, that these leaks aren't necessarily leaks.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? Do you think there's some truth to that?
It happens so often. Like, Sony have got a bit better, but every E3, all of their stuff comes out before the announcements. So, and I actually think that's damaging, because you get to the point where you're sitting in an E3 conference and you know what the next game is going to be, and they're like, oh, wait for it as the big announce, and it's like,
but is this not like just a practical consideration in these companies that have 300, 400, 500 people working on a game or a project, impossible. That, you know, people are a bit lax, people are incompetent, or people just... whatever, they can't be. They'll send a pitch to their mates. Look what I'm working on.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to like.
It happens in every industry as well. Like
that many
iPhones,
people.
And you see, pictures of the iPhone shells coming off the.
Because it requires so many people to make these things.
Yeah.
It's become a lot more a part of the film industry in the last few years, particularly when it comes to casting, and we've become a part of this machine, unfortunately. But the studio will put out leak ideas for who should play a character, 4 or 5 actors,
right,
and then. It will really inform their decision as to how the internet and fans respond to different people, to to the point that I feel like someone's been cut out of the movie this summer because there was such a backlash against them. Yeah. But I don't want to say who because I don't know for definite, and it's might be potentially libelous. But yeah, and that's why you'll see these shortlists coming out constantly. Right. There's been so many shortlists for Star Wars that are apparently official shortlists, and I'm sure it's them gauging what people are thinking. And
recently got a list of potential directors for Doctor Strange as well, and stuff like that happens quite frequently. You know, run it a lot on the site and see it elsewhere. Interesting. Yeah, free market research on a massive scale.
But I understand what you're saying, but on the flip side, whoever has the exclusive on the next Assassin's Creed, I'd be pretty annoyed with that.
Yeah.
Because
was it us?
I don't know. But I know that only a screenshot's come out, but the time period and the time
still,
period
that's like you want that. That's the juicy stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I've got a piece of feedback from Josh Smith, who says he was watching 300 last night. Before the film, there's a full 5 minutes of Captain America beforehand, and then an extended trailer afterwards. So by the time he'd finished watching the film, it feels like he's watched almost 15 minutes of the film, and he knows a lot about what happens and the direction of the movie. Why do studios do this? Are trailers and teaser trailers not enough? What's worse is by walking out the film, you can't even ignore it. So do you know anything? What is the reasoning behind that? I hate that.
I think we all hate it. I think they think we're stupid sometimes. I feel like they think audiences are getting more stupid and they have to show you more and more to convince you to come and see the film, when a really good teaser would get me in the cinema much quicker than 10 minutes of a movie.
And then I think it gets to a point where if one studio does it, you get in a situation like Commissioner Gordon says, it's about escalation. If one person does it, look what they're putting in their trailer. We're going to have to beat that. Let's put all our best scenes in the trailer, and then everyone's doing it and no one can back down from that, because if you do, it looks like your film's a bit boring.
Because it is, I guess in olden days you probably used to have one or two trailers, and now there is multiple trailers, multiple cuts of those trailers, whether it's domestic or international and this, that and the other, and only slight changes, but still it's like,
and it ties in with showing us journalists 25-30 minutes of a film. We've got a preview of 25 minutes of Spider-Man up on the site this week. 2 weeks ago I saw 20 minutes of Godzilla, 20 minutes of Edge of Tomorrow.
Just ruins it.
I know everything in Edge of Tomorrow, to the point that pretty much feel like me and Luke feel like we know the ending. We'll see if that's true. And it makes my job actually harder rather than easier. I mean, I know they're trying to get excitement going, but there were a couple of things we didn't like. We moaned both times about being shown too much. I don't see the good in it, and I have complained to the studios about it, saying I don't think this works. But
we see the same on games as well. Like it gets to a point where you're getting a trailer every single week for a game. It's like, did you just get a saturation point where you build up excitement? But then it's like, do you know what? I've seen too much and I don't care anymore. I just want to play the game. So it can have a negative effect. I think,
more is not more.
Yeah, and I think GTA was a really good balance of that.
The craving to see more of it.
Yeah.
Like genuinely, that surely served them better.
Yeah.
Obviously, GTA is a slight exception, but
that was also the first time in a long time where I've seen screenshots and got excited by a screenshot. Normally it's video.
You do feel cheated when you think it's a new trailer and it's actually the same stuff recut to different music. You're like, this is lame.
Yeah. Although, speaking of screenshots, obviously the new Batman screenshots that you circulated around, they look pretty badass.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing that in the actual game for Batman,
immersion,
rather
gameplay.
than just
I think
CG.
for a lot of games fans, it's the initial debut trailer, which is, I don't mind a CG trailer.
Yeah.
They look pretty cool and gets it establishes the tone of the piece. And then the next big thing for me is always gameplay.
Yeah.
I want to see what it actually looks like.
Yeah.
And those are the two kind of big things for me always.
Yeah. Chris, you got a piece of feedback?
I have. It's from Ben, who says, "Hello chaps, a possibly fake teaser site for a Banana Man film has been posted. I think it could work as parody of all the big budget American superhero films. Do you agree? Who would you cast and have on directing duties? If all else fails, I'm sure Chris Akabusi would be cheap." Thanks, Ben. I don't know what that means at the end. So for our listeners who might not know who Banana Man is,
there's probably quite a few of them.
Who's Banana Man?
Eric, someone, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, he lives in Acacia Avenue.
Right.
And anytime he eats banana, Eric becomes Banana Man.
So, is this real or is it fake?
Well, I didn't cover it, to be honest, because I thought it was fake. Well, it's just someone. There's a website now, bananamanthemovie or something.com, and based on that, news went around the internet. There's a Banana Man movie coming.
So the first question is why? Because surely nobody cares about a Banana Man movie.
But you say
I used to
Really?
no, I don't care about. Yes, I do care. I used to watch Banana Man a lot as a kid.
See, I didn't really.
Okay.
you say that, but 2 years ago, I wrote a feature for IGN saying cartoons we want to see turn into movies, and Banana Man was on there.
So it's your fault if it is true.
Well, or I should get the credit if it's good.
Right.
So I did actually cast the movie back then.
Go on then.
I cast as Eric. I cast a friend of the show, Craig Roberts.
Yep.
Young cheeky scamp.
As Eric Wimp. That's what he's called.
Eric Wimp, is he?
He's called Eric Wimp, later changed to Eric Twinge, but usually referred to as Little Eric.
Okay.
And then for Banana Man, I went for Jason Statham. Because we were all a bit obsessed with Jason Statham at the time.
Yeah.
But he's got to be big and muscular.
Yeah. Or Chris Akabusi.
So I don't actually remember that much of Banana Man.
Do you want to know his powers?
From a child into a big...
Yeah,
I know what Banana Man looks
So
like.
a bit like Captain Marvel. He turns from a child into a man.
Do you want to know what some of the powers are?
Go on then.
Super strength.
We can fly.
Obviously. Flight, invulnerability, breathing in space. This one's a little bit more out there. Helium-boosted heat finger.
Wow.
Intense stupidity. Also equipped with gadgets. Thermal banana. Banana laser cutter. Electronic thermal underwear.
There you go. It's a success right there.
Yeah, it's a spoof, and it was quite a funny spoof. I think it was in the Beano at one point,
And the Dandy
before it
as
went
well.
on the telly, and the Dandy.
I was gonna say,
It
I think
debuted in The Nutty, another comic published by DC Thompson in February 1980.
Right. So, if it was going to be a real movie, you're not going to attract Jason Statham, are you?
Why not?
Of course
I
you're
thought
not.
what you're on about, Alex.
The unfortunate thing is, it's probably going to be someone like Harry Hill or something ridiculous like that, and it's going to be awful. That's what
Harry
I think.
Hill.
Yeah. And it will be a complete parody.
What was that film with
It'll be the anti-superhero movie.
Julie Walters in a few years ago with Ron Weasley? It was like really bad.
Oh, yeah, I know the one.
Fart pants?
Farty trousers?
Thunderpants.
Fart your pants.
Eric is a schoolboy who leads an amazing life. For when Eric eats a banana, an amazing transformation occurs. Eric is Banana Man.
It sounds awful.
Basically just puts it down his trousers.
It was on TV. This is my feature I found. Now, it was on TV from 83 to 86.
Right.
And it was guys from the Goodies who did the voices.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's where some of the humour came from, because it was quite
That's Bill Holiday.
it was quite wacky. And it was like even the villain was a spoof, because it was Dr. Gloom rather than Dr. Doom,
Right.
and he had his sidekick Crow.
Right.
So yeah, he's impossibly square-jawed, which is why I'm calling Statham.
I like that Graham Garden did the voice, and apparently on some of the episodes they spelled his name wrong.
That's a Banana Man fact right there.
Attention to detail.
Look, I don't
Anyway.
think this is ever going to get made.
No,
I think it's all horse crackers.
I agree, and that's why I didn't put it on the site, to be
Good.
honest. But I'm glad we talked about it there. Thanks for the email, there, Ben.
But
And-
listeners, do you want to see a Banana Man film?
well, of course they do. It's just, of
course they might.
Be lots of people from
Why
America
wouldn't-
just writing in going, yeah, I
If
really
you
want to see
do,
it.
start a petition. Let's get
Yeah?
this shit made. Let's do it.
Let's
And
start a Kickstarter.
And how could they contact us, Alex?
Ooh.
IGN UK.
IGN underscore.
Sorry, yes.
IGN underscore UK feedback at
That's the one.
IGN.com.
It's such a fun email address. It really is.
It is my favourite of all the email addresses here at IGN.
No, I like the superhero show email address better.
Yes. It's catchier, isn't it? Yeah, catchier. So that's it for reader feedback this week.
So, we're going to look at the games and movies that are out in the UK this week. First up, games. And obviously, we spoke a lot about Hideo Kojima in this week's podcast. And out this week is Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes. Dan, you've had the chance to play it.
I've played it for about 4 hours, I think, in total.
Why have you played it that long? It's only 10 minutes long.
It's only 10 minutes. What, I'm doing it wrong.
Right,
I'm just
exactly.
really bad at
you
games.
must be really bad.
No, obviously, since it's come out this week, there's lots of videos going around of people who've done it in 10 minutes, 9 minutes, 8 minutes. But in reality, the first mission in the game, I think that's the best way to say it, the first and main mission in the game took me about an hour and 45 minutes, I think. And that's the first mission.
When you don't know where you're going and you're scoping out and just kind of like getting absorbed in the world.
The game, unlike Splinter Cell, and you can watch Hideo Kojima's director's commentary of the opening of the Ground Zeroes mission on IGN. He reveals loads of really cool things about the opening of the game that you might have missed. Unlike Splinter Cell, where it's like, go here, do this, there's a mini map.
Yeah.
you get dropped in this kind of Omega base, which is like a big Guantanamo Bay style detention camp, and you don't know where to go. You feel like a proper secret agent, I think. You feel like an absolute badass as well, and you've just got to rely on your wits more than anything to find the two team members that you've got to rescue. And
it gives you a clue at the beginning, obviously, where Chico is. Yeah. But then you've got to just, as you say, piece together kind of bits.
There's a bit in the game where you get a clue, and it makes you work it out for yourself. And at the end, it doesn't say, for help, press this button. It says, if you don't know where to go, maybe try harder, essentially. Yeah. And that's really refreshing. You pull up the
map, and there's not a big thing saying, go here, which I really liked.
So what I think that other people are finding kind of what people might experience is they'll finish that mission and they'll kind of go, is that it? Yeah. And if you go into the subsequent missions, the side ops, it's back on that same map. Yeah. So physically or geographically, it's not a big game, is it?
Not really. But at the same time, and you've played more of this than I have, obviously the main mission takes place at night, raining, very drizzly and kind of gloomy. But then some of the side missions take place during the day, and it feels like a completely different place, even though it's not. And you've got to play in a completely different way. Obviously, you can play as stealth, or you can just go, balls out, guns blazing. So I actually think it's made me really, really want to play Phantom Pain.
I think
more than anything.
And if we're honest, this is what this game is. It's a prologue. It's kind of a tone setter for Phantom Pain, which probably out 2015 perhaps. Yeah. But it is, it's some people think it's a lot of money for what it is. Yep. I don't, because it's a hugely polished quality game made by Hideo Kojima, which I think is always worth checking out. Yeah. And that's out this week.
So the other big hitter on PS4 is, I guess it's the first big PS4 exclusive, which is Infamous Second Son. Now, again, you've been playing a fair bit of that.
By the time this goes live, our review will be live. We gave it 8.7. Yeah. It's a great game.
So more than Ground Zeroes.
More than Ground Zeroes, which 8. And I think that's obviously factoring the fact that it's not a full-blooded Metal Gear game. It's not in terms of plot. It's a sample of things to come and the new style of Metal Gear game. Infamous is more a traditional game. It's very similar to the other Infamous games, I think, even though this new main character, Delsin, who in the main game is much more likable than I thought he was going to be. But is that kind of tried and tested structure is you're in one part of the map, you get a new power, you do some missions. The missions are quite good. Yep. There's loads of side missions and collectibles and things to unlock, blast shards, all that sort of stuff. Yep. So structurally, it's not a huge leap forward for the series, but it's one of the first kind of next-gen games that I've played and gone, that feels like a bit of a leap forward graphically. Sure. It looks like a Naughty Dog style game in terms of the level of detail, but done on an open world scale. So when you're walking down the street, buildings aren't reproduced, and things like walls have bespoke posters on them. There's nothing copied and pasted as far as I can see. And it's that level of detail that's like, wow, this feels like a different kind of experience in terms of quality.
Do you think it will be in the same way that Titanfall became a system seller for the Xbox One? Is this got the same kind of draw?
I don't know. I know some people who really love Infamous, especially some editors on IGN who really kind of stalwart Infamous fans. But I don't get an impression that it's really cut through and become a mega franchise. Really, I don't think it has the allure of an Uncharted or something like that.
I think that is, for me, is the next kind of Naughty Dog game is going to be the big one for PlayStation. And hopefully we'll see more of that at E3.
But if you've got a PS4, I think absolutely you should be picking up Infamous.
Yeah. So 3 other games out this week. Now, Yaiba Ninja Gaiden Z, that's out. We gave it a 5.6. It's mediocre.
Quite misogynistic as well.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Not cool.
No, thanks.
But again, Ninja Gaiden games have got quite a cult following. So I'm sure that no matter what we say, it'll still probably sell.
It's interesting. It's got really interesting graphical style.
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
A bit of a departure from the other games, but apparently the rest of it's not up to much.
Yeah. Final Fantasy 10 and 10-2 HD, they're both out. Again, HD remakes. If it's your thing, then you should definitely check it out. I know Luke Kamali will be loving it.
Widely considered one of the very best Final Fantasy games. Got 9.3 on IGN. Amazing.
Yep. But it's, I sat down with Luke a couple of weeks ago and he was telling me why I should play Final Fantasy. It's just not my kind of bag. But hey, if you like it, eh? And then finally, The Witch and the 100 Knight. Again, you were talking about that earlier.
Yeah. So we
pendulous, I think, was a word that you used.
It's kind of that. So it came out in Japan last summer, and it's just been brought across to America and Europe. It's been regionalized. It's kind of hack and slash kind of adventure with RPG elements. It's got an interesting graphical style, but it's got those kind of really ridiculous character types where maybe
kind of
some parts of the human anatomy might be grossly exaggerated on certain female members.
Yeah. Wow.
And apparently it's just a bit boring in places. We gave it a 5.8. So there's better games out this week.
So if you're going to pick one, which one would you go for?
This week, even though we gave it a high score, I think Ground Zeroes is the most interesting game out this week.
I'm going to have to say Ground Zeroes too. Chris?
Ground Zeroes.
There you go. Also, don't forget Infamous. What about movies?
Quite a few movies out this week, actually, but nothing huge.
Right.
I think everyone's running scared of Captain America next week. So I'll build up a little bit. There's a couple of very small, limited releases that we haven't reviewed on the site, but there's one called Svengali, which is kind of a Britpop comedy. It's got some good people in it. Martin Freeman, Matt Berry, Alan McGee plays himself in it, pretty much.
I watch Matt Berry in anything.
Yeah. We debuted the trailer on the site, and there's a very funny scene with him in. So that looks like fun, but feels like maybe you don't need to see it in the cinema. The Machine is a low-budget science fiction movie.
Yeah, I ran a clip of it on the site last week. It's kind of... And the clip we ran looks quite stylish, but I don't know.
Toby Stephens is in it. It's about a couple of scientists who fall in love creating an artificial intelligence.
Right.
So, again, but that's out VOD like next week, I think. Yeah. So that's very limited release. Then we've got some bigger films. A Long Way Down is out this week, which is an adaptation of the Nick Hornby book.
Right.
I think it's by Nick Hornby directing. Okay. It's got a good cast. It's Pierce Brosnan, Toni Collette, Aaron Paul, and Imogen Poots.
Yep.
And it's about 4 people who go to the top of a building to commit suicide and bump into each other up there. And then it's kind of how their friendship goes from there. Nick Hornby's always all right.
Yeah. Be interested to see him direct in a few years.
Yeah. We've also got Labour Day coming out, which is, what's he called? Jason Reitman's new movie. Right. Director of...
Up in the Air?
Yep. And Juno. Not very good.
And not Ghostbusters.
By all accounts. It was. It got pretty panned when it played at the London Film Festival. It's
also really annoying when it's advertised in London and Labour doesn't have a U in it. Same when Judgment Day or something is on.
Oh, they've not put the U in.
They've not put the U in. I actually saw it on the tube.
That's annoying.
This always happens. Somebody on the tube the other day put a post-it note on the poster that had a U on it.
Yeah.
But it's bad. It's Kate Winslet and Josh Brolin. It's about a criminal and a single mum kind of falling in love kind of thing. It's a book by Nick Sparks, who did The Notebook.
Right.
That's enough. That's all I really need to know. We gave it 6.9. And we said there's no real danger or passion in Labour Day, but the honesty emitting from director Jason Reitman and his cast is tangible enough to hook us. Not me. About Last Night is coming out, which is a remake of the Brat Pack movie from 1986, which was written by David Mamet and starred Rob Lowe and Demi Moore. This one, Kevin Hart is in it. Our old friend Kevin Hart. And it was a big hit in the States. It's kind of about a romantic comedy drama about 20-somethings.
He's got a big following in the States, hasn't he?
He is very funny.
Yeah.
He's
very nice as well.
A lovely guy. But I don't know. I hadn't really heard of him before he came in.
That's the thing. He's not a big star in the UK.
And I just thought he was just a naturally funny. Obviously, he's a comedian.
Yeah.
But I just warmed to him straight away.
Yeah.
And I thought that I know this different film, but the pairing between him and Ice Cube worked really, really well. The dynamic, the kind of straight, kind of cool guy, and then the guy that takes the piss out of him all the time. Really, really good. Yeah.
That works. This is kind of a grown-up movie for him, but it was a big hit in the States. We gave it 8.6. The only drawback I'm hearing is there's not a scene with him with a gun where he shoots it and flies back into a wall.
Please don't, Chris.
He did in Ride Along, which we're obviously all big fans of that joke.
Otherwise,
I'm actually on the verge. I'm on the verge of imagining it, and if I do that, I'm gone.
All right, I won't mention that again. Let's talk more seriously then. The other film out this week is Starred Up, which I'm currently in the midst of writing my review for. It's absolutely fantastic, really good. Small British film directed by a guy called Dave Mackenzie, who's done some good movies in the past, Hallam Foe, Young Adam, and it's set in prison. If you've ever seen Scum, it's kind of like an update of Scum almost, or A Prophet, which is a brilliant French film from about 5 years ago. And Jack O'Connell, who people know from Skins, He was also in Tower Block. He's in 300. He's not so good in that. He's brilliant in this.
Right.
And it's called Start Up because this is what happens when young offenders are too much trouble for the institutes they're in. They get starred up, which means they get put into men's prisons.
Right.
Which is obviously a terrifying thing.
Yeah.
And it's following this kid. It starts off with him going into the prison. It's wordless for the first 20 minutes. You just see what he goes through. But
Right.
it's absolutely gripping. And his dad, who's a pretty bad person, is in the prison as well.
It's pretty uncompromising
Yeah.
stuff.
Right.
Yeah, but really powerful. I'll be surprised to see a better British film this year. So I haven't decided what to give it yet. 8.3, 8.4.
Well, that's going to be your pick for the
Film
week.
of the week, yeah. If there's one film
Yeah.
you're going to see in cinemas, see that
So
one.
this week, Metal Gear 5, Ground Zeroes, and
Yep.
Starred Up.
There you go.
That's your
Job
weekend
done.
sorted.
Good selection. I think that's pretty much it for this week's podcast. Thank you, obviously, to everybody watching and listening. And we'll be back next week.
We will.
If I can put my teeth back in. And until then, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.